That's right, the mood of the nation is here with his exclusive opinion poll, the first big nationwide poll of this big election year. And in a moment from now, I'm going to give you the big numbers you've been waiting for. Let me introduce my guest who will help make sense of those numbers. Raj Chengappa, editorial director of India Today, one of the country's senior most and most respected journalists. Also joining me, Dikshit Channa of Karvy. Remember, his head is on the line. If the numbers go wrong, we'll take the credit when we get it right. Ajit Kumar Jha, editor research at India Today. He's helped put together the survey. And Rahul Srivastav, our national affairs editor, is also with us. I'm also going to be joined by special guests Amit Mallya of the BJP, Sanjay Jha of the Congress, and Sudhindra Badoria, leader of the BSP, Juhi Singh, spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. Just some of the guests who will be joining me this evening. But I'm going to go straight before the numbers to look at the methodology. Let's take a look at what the methodology says. Remember, this poll was conducted with over 12,000 sample across the country. That's the big sample size that we had. So it's a fairly substantial poll across India, all face-to-face interviews conducted. This poll was conducted across as many as 97 Lok Sabha constituencies. So that's almost 1 in every 6 constituencies in the country, more than 1 in every 6 in fact, and was between 28th of December and 8th of January. And I'm going to come back to that. Those dates are relevant because since then much has changed. 10% quota, Priyanka Gandhi's entry, the BSP-SP alliance. Okay. Time now to give you the big numbers. First, the vote share. What would be the vote share if elections are held today? And these are the projected vote share numbers. NDA 35%, down by 3% compared to 2014. UPA is taking the biggest jump, 33%, up 10%. And others, this includes the SP, BSP, Trinamool Congress, those who have not aligned with either Congress or the BJP, are at 32%, down 7%. How is all this translating into seats? Take a look at the seat share numbers on the mood of the nation. These are the big seat share numbers. NDA is now 237, down 99, almost 100-seat decline in the NDA, but they are still the largest formation. UPA is taking the biggest jump, 166, that's up 107. Others 140, that's down 8. So the overall picture, India is heading for a fractured mandate, as the headline of the India Today magazine says, a hung assembly. Let's also take a look at individual tallies of the Congress and the BJP. But before that, take a look at how we've been tracking the mood of the nation and what it shows. It clearly shows Mr. Modi peaking around January 17, just after demonetization at 360. He's now down to 237. Jan 17, they were 360, now 237. What is Rahul Gandhi doing? He starts from a low base of 59 there, and he's now come to 166. So January 2017 is the inflection point, remember. Keep that in mind. January 2017, just a month after demonetization. And this is what is the tally now of the others, 140, and don't rule them out in the event of a hung parliament. I also want to tell you the individual tallies that I'm going to give you in a moment for the Congress and the BJP. The BJP tally, remember, is down, but by how much? Congress tally down by how much? That graphic is coming to you in a moment. But the first big picture is that India is heading for a fractured mandate. That's the big flash that we need to give. Raj Chengappa, that's your headline in the magazine. Happy with it? Fractured mandate.
Well, yeah, we thought a lot about it, and it summed it up. And the reason why we went with it finally, we could have said NDA is down, which is pretty obvious, but the fact was that the other parties were not also able to form a government, and that summed up the entire situation. What is also very interesting is that we must, of course, clarify that this is at a particular moment, captures public perception at a moment. It is not at the election point, which is 4 months away, and a lot of things could change at that. But if you look at the figures, and that's what NDA and Mr. Modi should be truly worried about, is that this is showing a declining trend from January 2017. This is not the first poll that you're seeing the NDA decline. It is 2 years of decline that you're seeing. What is significant is it comes 4 months before the elections. Second, it is for the first time in from 2014
I want
that the
Congress and
NDA
BJP
has
individual
lost its majority. Previously, the BJP had dropped to 242 or so, but this is our first poll that shows that the NDA is dipping below 272 and will not form a government if elections are held now. Significantly also is that the opposition, Congress, though it has seen a surge that is there, not sufficient for it to form a government by itself, nor a third front, if you would like to call it that, or the Mahagathbandhan. They too do not seem to have the votes, the seats to do that, which means that they will now, in the next 3 to 4 months, have to form alliances to ensure that they could, if this results hold, to form a government, as would the NDA, which is down 237. It needs another 37 seats therefore, they would have to look at allies like
in Trinamool Congress, the Biju Janata Dal,
yes, and ADMK,
TRS. We will come to the roots to power in a moment. But what is the big picture is that as per the India Today-Karvy survey, we're once again heading to the era of hung parliaments. Remember, 2014, some would say, was an exception. Since 1984, it was the first majority government that India had had. And as you take a look at that tracker, that's very interesting. Remember, January 2017 is the inflection point. And that's really the key to what we are seeing. Let's get the political reaction. Amit Mallya, first reactions. What it appears is that the BJP, and I'll come to your individual numbers a little later, is no longer a party which is going to get an absolute majority. You will need new allies. Is that something that troubles you? Will it give you a sleepless night?
Well, you know, Rajdeep, I completely disagree with your prognosis that it will be a fractured mandate. The people of India will vote decisively. They will either vote for Mr. Modi, and the BJP on its own will go past the 300 mark. And if they don't do so, then we will fall much below what even you are projecting. But having said that, let's go back to 2013 and 14, around the same time, and look at the narrative. I don't think even a single pollster gave the BJP the kind of numbers that the people of this country gave Mr. Modi. And that's where lies the story, that there is a huge silent voter in this country which does not get reflected in most of the surveys, which does not explicitly speaks about what they are going to do. And that's also perhaps happening in your survey that you have put out.
Our survey is showing a secular decline in your party since January 2017. It's not just in this poll. You peaked at 360. You had as many as 360 in January 2017, a month after demonetization. And you're saying that we have got the poll horribly wrong. You were complimenting us in January 2017. Today you're saying there's a silent voter out there.
No, let me finish. Let me finish what I'm saying. I'm not going to challenge the trends that you've put out, because this is exactly how trends happen when you look at numbers and you look at data when the government is in office. But when the time for voting comes, that shows a hockey stick kind of a exponential rise, and that is what is likely going to happen if you do the same poll closer to the thing. And one last point, Rajdeep, you know, Mr. Modi's obituary has been written several times by political pundits. Every time the people have bagged him. And I don't see why, after being in office for 5 years and for having the track record that he has had, and the impeccable integrity that he has brought to the office of Prime Minister, the people of this country would do anything as your poll is suggesting.
Very quickly then, Sanjay Jha, respond. According to Amit Mallya, this is a hockey stick syndrome. He's saying these last 6-8 weeks, the BJP will rise. When it comes to the crucial moment to vote, people will want to give Narendra Modi another chance.
Rajdeep, no amount of statistical models or blogs being written by some of their ministers is going to save the BJP. If you look at the trend of the BJP across bypolls in state elections, the party is in a progressive decline. For the BJP, the best hope is a stop-loss situation, and I'll tell you why. I can quote you anecdotal experiences of several kind where people are expressing a public disillusionment. But what is the truth? The truth is that at this point of time, the tailwind is with the Congress party and several opposition parties. Clearly, the people of India have already made up their mind for a change. I will give you one example. in 2013-14, around this time, we recognized that we were, battling a very, very serious headwinds, and the results showed that. I think where the current government of Mr. Modi is concerned, people have realized they have been taken for a massive, monumental ride. This government has been a disaster for the economy, for our democracy, for our national security,
You're still
and overall for the health of our
behind.
society.
So while
and I think people want change. They
no
want to
writing,
say, let's get the Congress party
you're
back.
still 70 seats behind the NDA. UPA NDA gap is still 70 seats. I'll come to the Congress BJP gap in a moment, but the UPA NDA gap remains 70 seats.
Rajdeep, let me tell you, this is going to shift dramatically, because remember, one party is on the upswing, the other is actually trying desperately, which is what you can see what the Modi, Amit Shah are doing, trying to polarize society. You heard the statements of Amit Shah in Assam, for example. I mean, this is now a desperate attempt by the duo to try and polarize society, but it's not going to work. I think people of India have now seen through this usual disingenuous, dubious, very questionable methods by which they try and hoodwink the people. Ultimately, the economy is speaking loud and clear. Your survey, Rajdeep, tells me that jobs, rural distress, an economy that has remained plateaued or gone negative, an extremely poor perception of governance.
Right.
These are going to be the deciding factors. And clearly, your survey is a manifestation of what we believe is the public sentiment of today. I think the BJP is going to be out. You will have a non-BJP Prime Minister being sworn in May 2019.
Non-BJP Prime Minister, a good point to go to the SP and BSP. I want to understand, you now possibly parties like you hold the key, particularly the Bahujan Samaj Party. Would you, for example, go with the NDA? They have 237 and UPA has 166. Suppose the NDA offers Mayawati, Behan Mayawati, the Deputy Prime Ministership. Will you go with the NDA or not? Are you sure which side of the fence you are, Sudhinder Baduria? Are you anti-Modi or simply pro-power?
Well, let me say this, that over the last 5 years more particularly, and generally, we have affirmed our faith and worked consistently in trying to save the constitution, strengthen democracy, and also save the secular fabric. Well, as far as politics is concerned, short-term, long-term, both, in this, we must say that today, what has happened in the last 5 years in Una, what has happened in the lynchings across the country, and what has happened to the economy after the note bandi. I think there is no question of anybody looking towards the NDA. I think the entire nation is unanimous that Mr. Modi must go and BJP should be prevented from forming the government. This will be a serious threat, we believe, to the Constitution of India. We also believe and firmly believe that in the last 3 decades, there have been governments which are generally of all people together. We can run this country by consensus, and the consensus will be for a genuine federal government led by certain person who belongs to the downtrodden and who's able to take all the people of this country together.
Okay, so it's not Mayawati as Deputy Prime Minister, but Mayawati as Prime Minister possibly. Juhi Singh, is the Samajwadi Party also on board? Is the Samajwadi Party also very clear?
It is for you to, it is for you to, it is for you to, it is for you to conclude. It is for you to conclude.
Okay, very quickly. Juhi Singh, are you very clear that your main enemy is NDA? Am I to understand the 140 others, out of which you constitute a substantial chunk along with the Bahujan Samaj Party? Are you firmly with the UPA camp, or do you want to form your own federal front, non-Congress, non-BJP with these numbers?
Rajdeep, at the moment we are working with the BSP and the RLD, and I would say that this, I agree with Amit Mallya, this election is about the track record of the Prime Minister, his failures in policy formulation, implementation, and also various false promises, which I think one likes to hide behind. I mean, at least the BJP likes to hide behind by, targeting the Gathbandhan, which they so call. We've formed this alliance with the BSP and the RLD on the basis that we can deliver our promises within the parameters of the Constitution. We don't have to really overshoot it. They might like to make it about individual, because they even fight the corporators election on the Prime Minister's name, which is okay. That's their strategy.
Can I though?
But we are definitely not going with the NDA. Yes.
Okay, anyone but NDA seems to be the strategy of parties like the BSP and the BSP. Anyone but Narendra Modi. I'm just going to play though another number and I want the two of you to react. We asked, should the NDA get another chance? And 60% have said yes, the NDA should get another chance. 30% are saying no, but 60% are saying yes, they should get a chance. How does that fit in with the NDA in decline? Somewhere there are those who believe that Prime Minister Modi should get another chance.
Well, two things. One, that as you rightly pointed out, Prime Minister Modi being even today the most popular leader, that is one reason. But I think a more important reason is they see one party, dominant party coming as providing political stability. The typical thing in their mind is when they hear that there are 30 parties on the other side, they think of political instability based on the experience of the past.
No, to that extent, the hockey stick analogy could work. Amit Mallya is saying, look, at the moment, it's clear, according to our poll, that the NDA is not doing as well as 2014. But as you come closer to voter date, they will hope that these numbers will help them. 60% are saying, yes, Mr. Modi should get another chance.
Rajiv, I agree with Ajit. I think when you ask a question from people, Pradhan Mantri kaun acha hai, they say Modi. But it's unlike 2014, it's not the same election. I said it yesterday also. It's not an election on a political high, on which the voters
It's not a wave election.
It's not a wave election. It's an election where castes are dominating. So people eventually will vote for their caste. They will vote for their own compulsions. I think the comfort for the BJP is gone because of this very fact. Last election was a wave election. People are disappointed because of certain things. They have gone back to their little comfort zones of caste and regional other compulsions.
Let's therefore come away from that big graphic that we are showing to the main graphic, which is the numbers graphic. Let's come back to the numbers. Dikshit Chanana, you asked a direct question presumably to people as to who do you want to vote for.
Sure.
Did you get a sense that there were those who wanted to vote for Mr. Modi but were not very keen to vote for the BJP? Was there a mismatch between Mr. Modi, the individual, and the BJP at the local level, which is facing electoral arithmetic like in Uttar Pradesh? When two parties come together, then personality and chemistry doesn't work. It's about arithmetic.
I think the voting intentions of the people are still driven by Prime Minister Modi. He's the vote catcher. So between BJP and Prime Minister Modi, as in 2014, it is the Prime Minister Modi that is getting.
So why is there such a sharp decline then? Your survey is showing the BJP, which was peaking at 360 in January 2017, is down now to 237.
Yeah, the answer to that is in 2014 there was a Modi wave. 2 years back, when we did this 360 survey, there was a demonetization wave as well as a surgical strike wave, because both things have happened in the last quarter. After that, when people had high expectations, if those expectations are not met, people start losing confidence in that. The other perspective I would like to bring, that BJP has not done badly over the last 6 months. They had a 30% vote share in August 2018. Right. They have a 30% vote share still now. They are losing primarily because of the alliance in UP, and whatever losses they are doing in Western India, they are gaining that part in East. But the losses in Uttar Pradesh, there is no substitute for that.
So it's the loss in northern India which is hitting them. But let's come to that very interesting graphic that we are playing out. The tracker. From 2016, you reached 360 and then come down. What happened between January 2017 to today is the question. Demonetization wave seems to have become a demonetization curse today. Is that how you see it? What changed between January 2017 and January 2019?
Rajdeep, several factors, and I think Dikshit hinted at them, is performance.
Yes.
On demonetization, there was a wave, but subsequently, as people began to understand the consequences of it, and if you look at some answers in the poll itself, now a majority of them, as many as 72%, believe that demonetization led to lack of jobs, farmers' distress, and destroyed small businesses. These are large percentages of people who are disillusioned by what they thought was a genuine move to bring down corruption, but actually hurt them more than it did bring down corruption. That's one of the big points. The second thing I think is that though the economy, and if you look at the questions on the economy, the answers are fairly supportive of Mr. Modi, but the lack of jobs, that particular question, if you ask them, the percentage has risen dramatically from 22% last year to something like 34%, which means that the three big issues, if you take a look at them, whether it's agrarian distress, whether it's lack of jobs, Corruption was an issue, but that has significantly gone down. But you are seeing widespread farmers' distress on this.
Some element of anti-incumbency, the space for anti-incumbency seems to be growing slowly. And 2017 January to today, that space seems to have widened. I'm just getting details, Amit Mallya, of a survey done on ABP voter. They are also giving similar figures. NDA 233, UPA 167, others 143, almost identical. You know, you can dismiss every survey as you have every right to do. Something seems to have changed. हवा थोड़ी तो बदल गई है अमित मालविया, कुछ तो बदल गई है. You can't deny that.
You know, Rajdeep, I'm not going to debunk surveys because that's the easiest thing to do, but perhaps not the right thing to do. But let me take you to the surveys that had emerged just before the UP Assembly election. Every survey that came showed us quite short of the halfway mark.
Not
and
at
in
all.
Fact,
We gave you 280. Please do not mislead the audiences. We gave you a clear majority, sir.
Okay. Can I just finish the point that I'm making, please?
Yes, please do.
There were also certain surveys. Since you quoted ABP, I generalized it to other surveys that came, and several of them also said that the SP might be, ahead of the BJP.
Yes.
Now, the fact remains that there are elections where pollsters haven't got them right, particularly in the opinion polls, right? Exit poll is a different ball game altogether. Sure. And in the case of Uttar Pradesh elections, the pollsters had not got the opinion polls right. In fact, we were losing till the third phase if the opinion polls were anything to go by. But clearly the people willed the other way. It was also the same case in 2014. Nobody till 11 a.m. on 16th May gave the BJP a full mandate.
Has something changed since January 17? I want a quick answer. Do you accept demonetization is an inflection point? Mr. Modi's, in a sense, biggest moment is also turning out to be his Achilles heel, yes or no?
Well, if you have a certain narrative and if you're looking to force fit into that number, then maybe what you're saying might be true. But I look at it differently. I look at it at a decision which was taken, which people have taken time to come to terms with in terms of impact and in terms of the benefit that is brought to them. And Rajdeep, I keep saying this, that there is a narrative that is being made that demonetization has led to job losses and businesses shutting down. But when we speak to people on the street, we speak to small businesses, they tell us that after the initial challenges, things have streamlined and things have improved for them. So that is the narrative that will take people to the voting booth and they will vote accordingly. But it's a cycle in a government, and that's what you have to realize and incorporate or introduce in your survey that you have done.
Look at the party-wise vote share. Remember, sometimes the largest coalition is invited, sometimes you invite the largest party. The BJP is 30%, down 1. So as was being pointed out by Dixit, the BJP is holding its vote share, but the others have aligned, and that's what's causing the damage primarily in UP. Congress 25% is up 5. Others 45% is down 4% at the moment. How is this all translating into seats? And that's where you will see how this election is shifting. The BJP is 202, that's down 80. Remember, they got a majority for their first time, but even these numbers would be the second highest BJP tally ever compared to 2014. Congress 97, so up from 44 and up by 53 seats, but still not touching a century. Congress, like the Australian batsman, struggling to hit 100. Others 244, up 27, and these others 244. Remember, 202 plus 97 means Congress, BJP between them have less than 300, which means that all other options then suddenly open up. Rahul Srivastav, looking at these numbers, what kind of a government can we expect? Who forms the next government?
Rajdeep, my only worry here with the numbers is that when you give BJP 202 or something and NDA 237, we are giving 142 others. That 142 others includes SP, BSP.
Yes.
It includes parties like the TMC. Are there too many others left out of the UPA fold to support the BJP? If the BJP is stuck at, say, 237.
At 202 also.
At 202 also. Where is the BJP going to get? Because that others is 140. It has 55 of Samajwadi Party and BSP. It has TMC in it, which is not.
But our survey is showing DMK doing well. our survey...
These are you already part of UPA.
They are already part of UPA. You don't see them
Where
switching
is
sides.
the rest of the seats coming for the BJP?
They will need someone to switch sides. They would need
So
either a
even if
Biju
the
Janata
BJP
Dal...
may be having a head start,
237.
where is the BJP going to get the numbers?
The NDA has 237, which is only 35 seats short of a majority.
And the president usually invites the single largest
formation in this case.
Yes.
So they can go to what we argued in a post-poll scenario.
Yes.
They could actually go to Biju Janata Dal, number one. They could go to TRS, number two. And then they could sort of get some few independents and others. And that can possibly get them through. But the point is, if this trend doesn't change in the next 100 days, usually, Rajdeep, when you catch a trend of declining votes, in the next 100 days, if the campaign completely doesn't reverse, if the declining trend continues, they might go further down to, let's say, to 200 or 215.
Okay.
Then it will become a very difficult. Number two, one more point, that the others are dominated by allies, which we heard some of the speakers speaking. They seem to be what they call the secular parties. And therefore, a possible post-poll alliance with the UPA might be
I'll come to routes to power. I'll come to some fascinating routes to power in a moment from now. But Raj Chengappa, while we are obsessing with the BJP's decline, particularly from January 2017, let's be clear. When I look at those numbers, the Congress is not crossing a century. As I said, they are like the Australian batsmen. They are stuck, in this case, at 97. So when it comes to that battle, the BJP is still over 100 seats as per our survey ahead of the Congress. So it's not as if the Congress can celebrate at this moment.
Yes, I think that's a very important point. Though, let us give credit to the Congress in this poll that it has surged considerably. And if you look at Rahul Gandhi's popularity as well, that has surged. But they have their first aim, I would gather, is to defeat the BJP and the NDA.
Yes.
And that they seem to be getting close to doing so. But if
do you think there's do you think there's a number at which it becomes impossible for the NDA to form the government? I remember Rahul Gandhi telling us in Parliament, 220, NDA cannot form a government, Modi will not be Prime Minister, he will not get allies. Do you believe that there is a number below which the NDA is in trouble?
Certainly. I mean, if it drops below 200, 220, you're not going to, already as you've seen, whether it's the DMK, whether it is the TDP, BJD could go anyway, right?
Yes.
Where are they going to? YSR Congress, it means that TDP has to lose heavily. There is a chance with Chandrasekhar Rao to come in. He's got some seats that he should be able to support them.
Yes.
But 37 is doable. 80 might be very difficult for them to do so, NDA. But we also need to look at the fact that the way the NDA would strategize its, one is alliances. The other is what will be their strategy in the next 3 months. And I think you can sense that in Mr. Modi when he talks about Majboot versus Majboor Sarkar. And he's hinting very clearly that he needs, and he understands, this is answering your question, that at 237, 220, he's not going to form the government. He needs the majority.
What you're saying is he will wave this India Today magazine at voters and say, don't give me a hung parliament.
Exactly.
It will cause chronic instability. And that's the question, Sanjay Jha. Majboot versus Majboor Sarkar. You are below 100. Mr. Modi will say if you have a Congress-led government or even a third front-led government, it will be instability. You tell us, how will you respond when Mr. Modi says Majboot versus Majboor?
Well, let me tell you, I think it is a Maghroor Sarkar, an arrogant Sarkar. And I'll tell you, Rajdeep, pay attention to the one finer detail on which we will go to the campaign. Coalitions are better for India. They delivered better GDP growth. UPA 1 and UPA 2 had different coalition partners. We had the left parties in UPA 1, we had the TMC in UPA 2. And we gave better GDP growth rate, poverty levels came down. India actually saw better job situations. Perhaps it's never been as good as it was during that phase. You saw no farmer distress, the kind that you're seeing today. And we were a one united society, not fractured and fragmented as we are. So I don't think the story of the majority muscular government is working. And I think the people have seen through the fact that you gave Narendra Modi 282 seats. And despite that massive electoral advantage, how he's basically blown it. The second point, Rajdeep, is please remember, politics is a zero-sum game. So when you look at the UPA at 166 and the NDA at 237, in effect, you're talking about 35 seats. So if the UPA wins one, the NDA loses one. So I think you're down to around 35 seats that could bring both the groups, going by your assessment, into virtual neck to neck. I believe that the key word is momentum. I'm looking at your ABP, your survey, the ABP survey, and one done by Deccan Herald some time back. All of them tell you that Narendra Modi and the NDA are fast on a decline. And the UPA under Mr. Rahul Gandhi and several other leaders is seeing a positive upward momentum. I think that is the defining word that we got to keep in mind. And I can tell you from our experience of 2013-14, when that happens, it's irreversible. Narendra Modi is on an irreversible decline, and you're going to see a UPA alliance coming into power in 2019, and it's good for the country.
You know, both can happen. There, you know, the Congress is saying it's an irreversible decline. Mr. Modi or Amit Mallya are saying this is a hockey stick. Next 10 weeks we'll again start going up. They could bring a major farm loan scheme. We are being told.
Bit late for it. It's
Sorry?
a bit late. Some of these
You think it's a bit late?
Yeah.
No, that's the important point. Do you think that if the NDA now claims it's going to hit sixers, it claims 10% quota was a sixer, it'll bring a major farm relief scheme, it'll bring direct cash transfers, could it make the kind of announcements that can change this narrative in the next 6 weeks? That's the big question. What's the narrative now? You're saying one is Majboot versus Majboor. Is there another narrative out there?
Clearly, firstly, he has to say that, I mean, whatever our polls are showing, that in these 5 years, he has delivered a lot. And clearly, I mean, let's give Mr. Modi credit on various fronts, whether it's on, sanitation, roads, infrastructure. Mr. Modi's government has delivered. So he has to construct a narrative to say, look, I've done this much. This is a vast country. I am now going to give you this much more, rather than go on a negative campaign against the Congress and decry past governments of the Congress. I think it's very critical at this moment for Mr. Modi to construct, to say, look, I did my work sincerely. There were measures I took that went wrong, but here, look at the overall performance. I'm great. Give me another chance, another 5 years, and I'll do better. I think that's what he needs to construct in many ways, rather than these, last minute. That's a sign of desperation.
Is there a sign of desperation creeping in? When these numbers come, and I'm sure they'll be read very carefully, Amit Mallya, will you all be desperate to make more announcements in the hope that you can change the narrative? The narrative at the moment appears to be that the government is in some kind of decline. We can argue the extent of it, but there seems to be more than one poll now indicating that. I want to know, what is your magic formula? What is this sixer, to quote Ravi Shankar Prasad, that you're going to hit now in the next 6 weeks? You have 6 weeks for 6 sixers.
Rajdip, I don't want to speculate on what the Prime Minister may do or may not do. But one thing is very clear, that he does not fight shy of taking bold decisions. He has done that in the past, and he has invested a lot of political capital, and he's somebody who knows that what is it that he needs to do to sort of set the narrative. And I'm sure he will do what is appropriate. But having said that, I don't think he will take any decision which will be financially not prudent for this country, because he has always kept the country's interest above everything else, and he said so in his interview that he gave at the beginning of this year. And therefore, for Mr. Modi, you can't just be sure about the decision that he might take. And you've seen that in the past. You've covered him extensively while he was the Gujarat Chief Minister. You've seen this kind of narrative come every now and then, and you've seen how people have backed him. And I don't think 2019 would be any different. Just the fact that India hasn't seen a Prime Minister like Mr. Modi, who has worked relentlessly, who has improved the stature of this country on the world global platform, and he's somebody who's incorruptible.
No,
he's
are you saying other Prime Minister? No,
Amit
Mallya, my only problem with this narrative is it suggests no other Prime Minister worked relentlessly, no other Prime Minister raised India's stature. But it is your narrative. That's fine. You believe Mr.
No, Rajdeep. You've got to be fair to Mr. Modi.
Of course I am.
And you've got.
I'm saying Mr. Modi works very hard, but so have others. To say that others have not would be unfair, I think. That's all I'm saying.
What I'm saying is that he's perhaps worked much harder than anyone else in the last decade. That's what the memory of the people is like. And therefore, to believe that the people of this country would choose somebody who don't even have a leader, who don't have a vision, who don't have a program for this country, whose only agenda is to get rid of Modi, because Modi is doing a great job in office. He's working towards ensuring better lives for people. He's fighting corruption. It's a little too far-fetched.
Let me therefore take that for a moment to Sudhindra Baduria, because you know this narrative is going to be played, Majboot versus Majboor, and all of you have ganged up against Narendra Modi. You have only one agenda, remove Narendra Modi. That is actually making him a larger than life figure. He can go to the people and say, देखिए ये लोग सब मेरे खिलाफ है, वो कहते हैं मोदी हटाओ, मैं कहता हूँ देश बचाओ. Are you worried that this gang up that you are doing at the moment will actually work against you, Sudhindra Baduria? That could be one thing that could change in the next 6 weeks. Mr. Modi could claim this country needs a strong leader, strong government, not a weak government
I think
with no prime ministerial candidate.
You see, the politics of this country turned around when in UP, when the alliance was formed between the Samajwadi Party and the Bahujan Samaj Party in Phulpur and Gorakhpur. And that is what has changed the story of this country. Subsequently, 4 elections in UP, Kairana, Nurpur, and 6 elections to different states. Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Karnataka before that, Telangana, Mizoram, everywhere BJP was wiped out. I think now the Waterloo of Mr. Modi is very clear. The success story started from UP, his Waterloo is in UP, and Modi ji is out. This is one thing which is final and which you will see in the month of May, and then the polls are over and the results are out.
I get a sense again, Jui Singh, your one-point agenda, Modi hatao. That seems to be the agenda for now. Baki sab baad mein dekh lenge, kaun pradhan mantri banta hai, what kind of government. Modi hatao for now. Am I right?
No, Rajdeep, that is Mr. Modi's agenda. Well, he's played victim on every instance when every policy he has played before any election. So he's hardly majboot. And if his own party is not sure what he's going to do tomorrow, so he's hardly dependable. And the two things have been really played out. The second thing is our agenda is giving the people a responsible and accountable government, not an insensitive and irresponsible government, which might be Modi ji's definition of his government, and it's the people's definition of his government. So, I mean, he can come to UP, he can fight elections, he can cry from, he's done all of this. We have not. So, he's played the victim, and it might be all about him in his head, and in the BJP's head, the people know better, and the people want to hold their leaders accountable and to, where is the policy delivery? People were saying that Modi ji has performed a lot. I cannot see, we cannot see it on the ground, and the people will ask him
you're not the opposition, you will see nothing good. The government will say it as if India has been transformed. India has been transformed into a garden of roses, you know, milk and honey. That's the problem. Let's look at that, Rahul Srivastava. We are getting two very different narratives. As these numbers play out, what narrative is going to gather momentum? Majboot versus Majboor Sarkar of the BJP, or the other side simply saying Modi has underperformed, this government dhoka diya hai. What I'm hearing, the slogan time and again now from the opposition, Modi ne dhoka diya desh ko.
Rajdeep, I think this is where what we were discussing earlier, what the BJP will try to set the agenda and what the perception of the public is. When you talk about Majboor and Majboot Sarkar, it is basically instability versus stability. It is up to the people to judge what a stable government has given them. Once they feel stability has not brought them something, they will go back to the caste equation like in UP. Do you think people are thinking about stability when they are voting for SPBSP? No. They are waiting for their comfort, voting for their comfort zone caste. Because stability they voted for already. If they perceive they didn't get what they wanted, they will go back to their comfort zones. So stability also as a template is wonderful. But do people believe that stability provides them what they really wanted stability to do? I think that's going to be the decider.
You know, and as this caste arithmetic plays out, we are seeing SP, BSP, they are performing strongly as per our poll in Uttar Pradesh. If Mr. Modi is to look back, demonetization and the appointment of Yogi Adityanath in UP, has that appointment in a sense triggered in a sense this kind of caste combinations against the BJP, a polarizing figure? Could these emerge as two potential errors of the Modi government if these numbers hold?
See, first of all, Rajdeep, I think we do a great disservice when we always refer to the SP, BSP as merely caste combinations, which they are not. They actually represent in the case of Uttar Pradesh, 75% of Uttar Pradesh, the OBCs, the Dalits, the scheduled castes, and the minorities, which you put together, it's almost 75% of the population. So therefore, to just call it mere caste combination is not there. Number two, when I was in UP for the last like 10 days to 2 weeks, a lot of people I spoke to, they told me, Mayawati ji, bahut tough thi law and order pe. That image is still there with people, number one. When people were complaining about, for example, Yogi Adityanath's government's, let's say, a few policies, many of them pointed out that Samajwadi Party, Akhilesh Yadav, last 2 years, mein dekhe kya kiya. So that governance factor is also there. So we should not, first of all, merely call them caste combinations. Number two, I think what is happening, as I pointed out even earlier, there is an algebra here. The moment two parties get together, the seat increase is phenomenal, and that is what is happening in North India, in UP,
but
and
let's
in
be
West India, it is actually anti-incumbency against the BJP in Gujarat, in
but
Madhya
you know,
Pradesh,
let
in
me look at it
Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh.
Let me look at it from Mr. Modi's perspective. We are saying that the BJP is suffering a loss from 282 down to 202, about an 80-seat loss. Out of that, almost the 50-seat loss is Uttar Pradesh.
Absolutely.
You know, you give up Uttar Pradesh and you're in a virtually, it's Uttar Pradesh which is becoming the deciding factor in this election. Am I correct? From all your numbers, by and large, the state where the most dramatic change is taking place at the moment is Uttar Pradesh. A little bit in the western part of the country, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, but the real hit for the BJP is Uttar Pradesh. As simple as that.
Sure, there is no substitute for Uttar Pradesh. There is a substitute for West, but there is no substitute for Uttar Pradesh. And taking the cue from what Rahul said on the comfort to stability to comfort, the important point, this era is going to be the era of alliances. And why I said that, few years back, there was a very popular ad which said, "Har ek friend zaruri hota hai." This time it will be "Har ek party zaruri hai."
Har ek party zaruri hai. That's a nice one. Is there a sense that you're getting there for Raj? Because in a moment I'm going to come to how governments can be formed. But as of now, it's Uttar Pradesh where the maximum battle. Priyanka Gandhi's come in, an X factor from the Congress. SP, BSP has come together. What is the BJP's Brahmastra? Is it Mandir? Or is the BJP run out of options for Uttar Pradesh now?
You know, when you talk about Mandir, that's an option that they have. They've tried to rev it up a lot. Interestingly, our survey finds, and I think they should proceed with great caution with divisive politics, because something like 70% of the people
69
have said that caste violence and communal disharmony is now the single biggest threat to India, overtaking cross-border terrorism. So there is a sense of unease. So for the BJP or the RSS to start playing up too much of that may be counterproductive. I think Mr. Modi has
69, repeat that for our audience.
69%.
69% in your survey are saying communal disharmony and caste violence is
the single most security threat for India.
And 41% said that intolerance has gone up over the last 5 years.
And 41% said intolerance. So somewhere the Mandir Masjid will not quite work. He has to be very careful.
Yes, and he has to stick to his development agenda, because that is what he has projected all this while. If he starts playing the communal card or any divisive, the Mandir card, he runs the danger of losing that sheen.
Okay.
That I am here to develop India, to make it a great nation.
Okay, let's take a break on that point, because when we return, we'll turn to what excites me. Routes to power. I'm not a neta, so I don't have to worry how I'm going to form a government. But with these numbers, the major parties will have plenty of sleepless nights if these numbers hold in May 2019. Routes to power. How will a fractured mandate give us a government? That's when we return on the Mood of the Nation, India Today magazine's exclusive survey. Back in a moment.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.